Yay! What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 412. Very special episode today. Not only is it the earliest episode of Ginger Runner Live that we've ever done, but we have a guest coming to us live from France. It is the second place UTMB finisher, Marianne Hogan, and we're going to chat with her today all about UTMB, about Western States, about the double. It's going to be a fantastic show. Welcome, everyone. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Ginger Runner Live begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 412. We have a very exciting show for you today. Not only is it the earliest Ginger Runner Live that we've done, we're fresh.
We still have our coffee.
We have our coffee in our mugs. It's like a Daily Brew episode, actually.
We have our coffee in our Canadian mugs.
Canadian mugs in honor of our Canadian guest. Marianne Hogan is going to be joining us on the show today, fresh off of her second place at UTMB this last weekend. An incredible race, but we have lots to talk with her about because not only did she place second at UTMB, she placed third at Western States just a matter of weeks ago. That double podium hasn't been done often. Only a handful of athletes have ever done that.
Very small handful.
Very small handful. So we're going to chat with her all about those two races, the time in between, what recovery looks like and stuff like that. But of course, before we introduce our guest, there's the wonderful Kim.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Hi, everyone. Kim Tashima Newberry here as always. If you're new, come say hi in the chat, a very active chat room right now. And of course, if you have questions for our wonderful guest, Marianne, please ask them in the chat.
And a very special shout out to the GR crew. It's because of them that we're able to do these live shows every single Tuesday. In addition to our daily live stream called Daily Brew, our reviews, our films, all that is because of the GR crew. If you would like to join the GR crew, head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. All tiers get access to some super fun perks, including today's after show with Marianne. It's super, super fun, and we would love to have you join that incredible community. One individual in particular at the top tier, Brian Sands, we like to give him a special shout out because he has been so supportive of everything that we do, but everything that the sport of ultra is. He's been a longtime supporter of so many different things ultra, so it's a wonderful to be able to have him as part of the crew. Thank you, Brian. Without further ado, coming to us all the way from, I believe, Chamonix right now. I think she's in Chamonix. She could be in any number. Is that true, Marianne? Still in France. So we have her in our ear. Marianne still is in France.
Yes.
Maybe not Chamonix specifically.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. I'm so excited to welcome to the show for the very first time, Marianne Hogan.
Yay!
Yay!
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Doing
We're
well.
good. I mean, our legs are probably doing a little bit better than yours. How is recovery going at this point? You're a couple days removed from one of the toughest races on earth. How are you?
I'm actually doing pretty good. I'm sure we'll get to it eventually, but I got a pretty serious injury on my left leg, and that's really the struggle at the moment.
Wow.
But the rest of the recovery is not doing so bad actually. I've gotten back to my regular senses, and I feel pretty good.
Are you able to enjoy? I mean, is this considered a vacation at this point? Like, are you able to enjoy some of your time, or is it still all UTMB focused and, interviews and all that sort of stuff?
No, actually, I started work again today. So not only am I not in vacation mood and am I not in UTMB mood anymore, but I'm back at work. So,
Oh my gosh.
but I'm working remotely, so I'm still enjoying it all, and I have no complaints here.
One thing that we've talked with other athletes who've obviously run UTMB and done very well there, and there is kind of I guess there's a couple schools of thought. You arrive early and you train in Chamonix and you train on the mountain trails and stuff like that leading up to UTMB. Did you arrive early? So have you been there for a long time and ready to get back home, or were you there for a short period of time?
I was there actually since the beginning of August, which I do think was crucial to me doing relatively well at UTMB. I don't think that I could have done that if I hadn't gone it ahead of time. I went out with the Solomon team, and we did the the Tour du Mont Blanc in 4 days, which was very, very helpful.
Oh, nice.
So and the rest of the month was spent kind of in Chamonix region. So I got to train a lot in the local mountains and enjoy the beautiful views for a while.
With that 4-day UTMB Circumnav, was it the same course? So were you able to just see and get your feet on everything that you were going to race?
Yeah, exactly. We did the whole course in 4 days, which is super nice because, I mean, the day of the race, a lot of it is during the night, and you would have no idea what's around you. And there's some pretty nice views out there that I would have missed otherwise. So not only was it good training, but I'm happy that I went out there so that in the middle of the night, I can imagine what's around me, and it's something that is visually that I've seen already in a certain way.
That's awesome. I want to go back a little bit, talk about Western States. We can touch on that before we get into UTMB, only because it's such a huge part of your year. What was the buildup like for Western States? And I mean, did you go into it with expectations, with goals? I know you earned your golden ticket. So how did that sort of play out for you? And looking back, how did it compare?
Yeah, so back at the beginning of 2022, I guess my big goal was really Western States, and the first step into achieving that goal was qualifying for Western States. So I had registered for all 3 of the golden ticket races in America, and the first one being Bandera. So I went out and ran Bandera in January and was very grateful that I was able to get my golden ticket there. And then, so that was I checked that one off, and I didn't have to go ahead and race the 2 other golden ticket races. And then leading up to Western States, as I seemed to find myself, I had a bad fall, and I dislocated a bone in my left foot, which really disrupted kind of my buildup for Western States, which is very particular. And it made things interesting because I couldn't really start running trails until maybe the month of May, and bringing up the volume again. So it was actually a very interesting build up for Western States, and I didn't really know what to expect. Yeah, so I guess that's how the year started.
Marianne. I think I remember hearing rumblings after States that Marianne had an injury in the foot, atypical training, but I did not realize you had a dislocated bone in your foot, and you weren't even able to start training until May.
Well, I ran I started running again maybe like end of March, and like started running again in April, but I really couldn't do anything. Like I didn't do any speed, I didn't do any trails, I didn't do it was definitely not the training that I wanted to get done before State. So it was an interesting path, but yeah.
Yes. So I guess the question kind of becomes, now looking back, was it almost a blessing in disguise? Clearly you did very well at States. Regardless, I'm sure you probably still had pain, or was it an issue during the race at all?
So it was my left ankle, and my left ankle is actually still swollen from that fall.
Wow.
So I am still always feeling something. But I do think that it was, I always try to twist things as blessings in disguise, because
Sure.
it's happening anyway, so I might as well try to see the positive. I am someone who tends to overtrain, and I think I was heading in the direction where I was going to be peaking maybe earlier than Western States. I had taken the decision that I was going to go race the canyons just for practice for Western States, and I ended up not doing that because I was nowhere near close to shape or form to do so. And I think in the end it might have been the better decision, because I showed up at Western States way more fresh and ready to roll than if I had if I had gone out maybe hard at the canyon. So I don't really know. I guess that's the story that I have today, and I don't know what would have happened if that hadn't happened. So
the results speak for themselves. I mean, incredible. I guess that's some detail that I just didn't realize, and now I'm just like a little blown away. Marianne. This is amazing. We are live with Marianne Hogan, fresh off of her second place at UTMB. We have live questions. Kim, take it away.
Yeah, tons of live questions coming in. Of course, if you still have questions for Marianne, you can ask them throughout the show. We have a question from JShev36, and they ask, what is Marianne's running background, and how did you get into ultra and endurance trail running?
That's a great question. Yeah, everyone tends to have a different path, right? What about yours?
Yeah. So I started off as a swimmer, and eventually transitioned over to triathlon. I did triathlon all through my junior years. And as a Canadian, I was always it was always my dream to go and study in the United States. So I applied to different schools to go to a track and field D1 program. So I did 5 years of track and field in the school in California. I went to San Diego State University. I ran the 10K for 5 years, and when that was done, I was really, really sick and tired of pacing. I didn't want to, I didn't want to run around the track anymore, and I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and that's really where I fell in love with trail running, and fell in love with the fact that there was no such thing as pace, and it was more about feeling and just running out and running for as long as you wanted, basically.
Yeah, you are a Canadian citizen. Spent a lot of time in the States. Is there a preference? Like, do you enjoy living in the States, or now that you live in Canada, is it like Canada's home? This is where I want to be? Because you've trained so much in the States and raced a lot here too.
Yeah. To be honest, I adapt super easily, and I kind of like wherever I am. Like, I'm in France right now, and I could definitely see myself living in France. And I was in California for the month of June, and I could have seen myself living there. But I do have an apartment in Montreal, and I do go back there every once in a while. So it is home for me now, but I can't tell you where home will be for me tomorrow. And that's how I kind of like to live my life.
That's exciting. Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
More live questions.
Yeah, question from Jean Ives. This is from our Discord server, and they asked, who were or who are your running idols, and anyone from Quebec?
Yeah, idols. I like that question. But for me, like, my idols are a lot the people that are very close to me. I really enjoy, grabbing things from the people who are around me, and surrounding myself with people that inspire me on a daily basis. I mean, idols. I'll have to say that Mathieu, who just finished second at UTMB, he's definitely one of my closest friends, and someone that I really look up to, and that we're really close, and I really look up to the process that he does, and with us being close friends, it's easy to kind of shape ourselves in the way that set good goals for ourselves and kind of motivate ourselves, and that's really important to me. But in terms of idols, kind of on the bigger scheme, I mean, he's definitely on the bigger scheme, but he's very close to me, so I feel like it's a different answer. But Courtney is my all-time favorite. I really enjoy her attitude. I think that if every athlete can have her perspective on training, on racing, and on just sportsmanship in general, I think that trail running would be. I mean, it is already a very good sport, but I think that she's just an example that I truly look up to.
And I think, just from watching the live feed during UTMB, one thing I noticed with you is you just seem to be always smiling and kind of embracing that. And I feel like that's very Courtney-esque as well. Like, Courtney always looks like she's having a good time out there. I think even when things are a little tough or difficult, and we felt the same way watching you. It was very, very cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, whether this is what's going on internally, but externally, watching you race is such a joy, because you come into aid stations with a smile, you leave with a smile. And there's this just sort of happiness to it, like a joy that is infectious. It's such a wonderful thing. And basically, we were plastered to the TV all weekend watching you at UTMB, and Caitlin, of course, and Katie, and watching the women's race. And we're just like, oh my God, Marianne, she's like so happy. She looks so good coming into every aid station. We'll chat about that, of course, more as we talk about UTMB. I want to talk about the in-between, because you performed clearly so well at Western States, third place podium finish. How did that feel to perform so well at Western States with a training cycle like you've just described? And then how did those weeks after Western States sort of feel and give you a bigger picture of how UTMB might look for you?
Yeah, so in the end, I mean, the buildup was pretty good. And, I was able to get some good volume and feel pretty confident on the day of. What was interesting though is on the day of Western States, I had some huge digestion problem. So it affected my race, but it also affected my recovery because I
Oh,
threw
no.
up so much during the race and I threw up so much after the race that I don't think I had ever been depleted that much. I mean, it was my first 100 miles, so it's hard for me to compare. But yeah, I was so dehydrated that the next day I could barely move. I was completely dry. So I think my body kind of it took a while. It took a while for me to rehydrate myself and kind of replenish. But once that was done, I actually started feeling better very quickly.
Mm.
So my recovery kind of it was like very slow at the beginning, and then eventually as soon as I feel like I had refueled, rehydrated. I started feeling better very quickly, and I had given myself there was 8 weeks I think in between both events, so I had given myself like 2 weeks of recovery, 4 weeks of build up, and then 2 weeks of tapering before UTMB, which was a very tight schedule. And the only thing I did within those 4 weeks is trying to get as much vert as possible,
Oh, yeah.
because I do think that was the one thing that I needed to work on, coming from Western States going into UTMB, and also just because I'm more of a runner than I am a hiker, so I kind of had to transition into using poles, and that's why I decided to go to France beforehand so that I could really get my body adapted to the altitude, but also the mountains that are present in the Mont Blanc region.
A lot of athletes running their first 100-miler don't think about a podium. You did. But then when they finish, and especially in the state that you have been describing, would look at that as like, oh man, I'm never running 100 miles again, or I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to wait a year. Maybe I'll come back next year. Was there any doubt in your mind between these two races? Like, what am I doing? I went from a super hot, hard 100, and I'm about to go to a huge mountain 100. Where was your mindset between them? Was it competitive? Was it just there for the joy?
No, I'm always just there for the joy, and the thing for me is like Western States was my big focus, and that's what I was focusing on. And I was very happy with the third place finish. Like even if I don't think that I had my best performance just given the circumstances. And so UTMB for me was more of a bonus, and I was just like, well, I'm going to prepare myself as best as I can given my race planning and given the fact that I am doing the double, and just give my just give myself the space to take it easy if I need to take it easy, and
Yeah.
to not push my body. If in the middle of UTMB I felt like I was really really over the top exhausted, I think that I would have respected it, but in the end I feel like yeah, I feel like my body handled it pretty well. Obviously it had its issues, but it wasn't exhaustion. It wasn't like the fact that I had done 200 miles within 8 weeks. Or
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously the performances speak for themselves. You're at the start line of UTMB. It's a spectacle. We've seen it. We know the music in our head. It's replaying on loop. What's going through your head at that start line with the thousands of people behind you? You're looking to your left, to your right. You see past champions. You're just towing the line with some of the best in the world. Like, what's going through your head? Is there a strategy at play, or is it like just go for it?
Um, yeah, I mean it's really nice, the start line at UTMB. It's like it's a huge show, right? It's there's so many people. There's very loud music. It's very very hard not to be emotionally involved in the process.
Right.
So for me, it was also very very nice because I was there at the start line. I was there at the very start line, right next to Mathieu. And the whole 10 minutes leading up to the start, we were just joking around and enjoying the process, and I was just happy to take part. And I think that mindset, of me taking the start on such a lighthearted place really kind of dictated the rest of my race. And you guys are saying that I was smiling the whole way, and that's really how I felt. I was just happy to be out there. And it's hard not to smile. Like, you run through these towns and there's like thousands of people everywhere cheering for you, and they're yelling your name, and because your name is written on your bib, but they have no idea who you are, and I just and it's just like it's an I feel like it's like an out of space experience. Like it's just very particular.
Did you start? Well, we'll get to a couple more live questions here. Did you start fast? Because I know that like that's kind of a notorious thing, is that runners tend to take this start very, very fast.
Yeah, well, I got passed by Jim Walmsley at like kilometer 3 or 4 or something, and that worried me quite a bit because I was like, why was he behind me? So yeah, I did start off like pretty fast, but it's hard not to. I just tried to make sure that my breath and my heart rate wasn't going too high, but living the moment. You know, it was kind of nice to just run through the town and take off. And you know, and on 100-mile like UTMB, like those first couple Ks, like I like to call them like free kilometers. So you just take them and get them out of the way in the pace that's comfortable but fast enough.
Got it. All right. Yeah, let's get to some live questions.
Yeah, lots of great questions rolling in here. This question is from Saber29. They asked, did you find any inspiration from Jessica in your UTMB race? How does UTMB compare to guiding Jessica last year? Both seem like such a special occasion in your athletics career.
Yeah, so just as a little bit of context here, I was a guide for a blind triathlete at the Tokyo Paralympics last year. I think it was about this time actually. I think UTMB was almost the day of our race last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's a very interesting question. They're two very different experiences. Absolutely, you know, being a guide for Jessica is definitely a very human experience. It's very difficult. There's a lot of details that you need to be focused on. You know, you're taking care of someone else. You're basically responsible for another human being, in a sense of I'm driving the front of a tandem and we're going at like 45 kilometer per hour or even faster.
Oh, yeah.
In certain downhills, and it's a very big responsibility, and you're racing with someone else and for someone else in a certain way. But what I do think is, you know, these kinds of experiences for me, it's all about human interaction and the moments that they make you live. And when I crossed the finish line of the Tokyo Paralympics, like it was a very emotional experience. And I would say that crossing the finish line of UTMB was a very emotional experience as well. And I think that as many of those experiences you can live, I think the better it is, because you don't get overwhelmed by them as much. Like it's not like I feel like I'm not someone who will necessarily be stressed out or nervous at the start line, and I do think that does help me, because I just start off in a very calm state. So
yeah, do you remember any of these sort of human interactions, human moments from UTMB? Like, do you have any standout interactions that you are going to hold on to for a long time? It's very similar.
Yeah, I mean, with Katie is very interesting, because we both had kind of like different downs, but the situations were in reverse. So she threw up and I caught on to her and like held on back of her, like moving up a climb for a really long time. And then when I got to the top, we kind of chatted for like a quick second, and then I took off. And then when she came back to me, she did the same exact thing, but in reverse. And I think that was so funny. Like in my head, I was just like, I'm having a deja vu experience, but in reverse. So I think that was definitely like a good experience. But for me, my human experience, the most important for me for UTMB is so I started having like body issues, like the mechanical issues. I had a hip injury, and I called up my physio just to kind of so that he could guide me as to what it could be and what I should do to relieve the pain.
Yeah.
And so this is the physio from Solomon, and he followed me along the entire rest of the race. And I can't even tell you, there's no way I would have made. I mean, he wasn't running with me, but I mean, like, he was making sure that at every aid station or at everything, I was having what I needed, and that I was taken care of. And there is no way that I could have made it to the finish line without him, and that made a huge difference. And that is definitely something that I will remember forever, and that I will forever be grateful for.
That's amazing. Yeah, kind of a testament to the fact that we might be running an individual race, but there is a team, whether it's your crew, your partners, or your family, or whatever it might be, right? There's more than just you. I want to get to...
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Get to a couple live questions here, and then we'll talk about the back and forth during the race, which is some of the most exciting racing that occurred out there.
Yeah, a question from Deb Runs Far. She asked, comparing Western States runnable course versus UTMB Mountain 100, which type of course do you prefer?
That's a good question. I think prior to the race, I would have easily answered Western States, but now I'm more torn. But I think I still go with Western States. I'm more of a runnable person. If you see me hiking, like, I'm definitely not the most efficient hiker. I don't use my poles the best. I'm definitely more of a runner. I have more of a runner's background, and I really, really, really enjoy running downhill. And I think that Western States really gives that to me. So I'll have to go for Western States with that. And I also really enjoy running in the heat, and Western States provides a whole lot of that too. So
just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about this. So Katiescheid was leading the race for a majority of the first half. She's an incredible athlete. Shout out to Katiescheid, of course. She ended up winning UTMB. Wonderful race. But you catching up to her and passing and sort of sharing that lead back and forth during the middle miles of UTMB, what does that feel like? For those of us who will never experience the feeling of leading a race, but like slingshotting back and forth with one another and getting to an aid station and like assessing the other person and stuff. What did that feel like for you? And was it exhilarating? And what did it feel like to get passed again?
Yeah, it was very, very exhilarating. So we only slingshotted twice. So I passed her, and then I stayed in front for a little while, and then she passed me again. So what was really interesting is that when I passed her, it's like I passed her at one shot, and I was feeling great, and I just went for it. And like, by the time I got to the bottom of the hill, like, I had a good lead, and I was feeling so good and so positive. And my whole crew was there, my family, my brother, who was my main crew, super excited, and clearly like we were doing well, like everything is going very good. And then I get to Champelac, or I get to the last hill to go up Champelac. And all of a sudden, like, my left hip just completely stops working. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is not good. I was feeling great, but my left hip just stops working. And so going uphill, I start feeling like sharp pain in my left leg. And then I was like, oh my God, this is not good. So I'm going up, I get to Champelac, I sit down for a little. And they tell me that Katie, at that point, I don't know why I was given this information, but they tell me that Katie is 20 minutes behind me. So, and that was a lot, 20 minutes, because that from La Foulie to Champelac, I was like, 20 minutes is a lot. So I was thinking, like, probably she's having a lot of stomach issues and she's back there. But she was not 20 minutes. And that's the thing, is that in Champelac, I sat down, I took care of my hip. I told my brother, I was like, can you make sure that the physio is at the next aid station, because I'm having issues. But I didn't make a big deal out of it, because I didn't want anyone to worry. And I also didn't want myself to worry, trying to make it a big deal. So I take off. I start running, but definitely slower, because I was concerned about my hip. And then I get someone from the Solomon, my crew basically stops by a little further down, and they tell me, hey, by the way, Katie is not 20 minutes behind you, she is 5 minutes behind you.
Oh.
so then I was like, okay, well, that is a huge difference. Like 20 minutes to 5 minutes, that's different. So I start going up, and the more that I go up, the less that I'm able to lift my leg. And by the time I get to the top is where she's caught on to me. She's behind me. And she did the same as I did. She was like behind me for a little while, and she waits to the very top. And then like we spend like we chit chat for like, I don't know, maybe like a minute or something. And then we start going down. and then it was my turn. Like I was not able to go down whatsoever. Like
Oh yeah.
I couldn't even, like, I was in front of her for maybe like a minute, and I was definitely preventing her from moving at the pace she wanted, and she passed by and she just flew by. And and at that point I was just thinking, like, there's no way that my body is going to come back to what it was before. Like there's definitely something wrong with me. And it wasn't about catching up to her. It was about surviving. And it
Yeah.
was about making it to the finish line, and that's all I worried about. And for the next 3 hills, all I was asking was, like, how far is third place? And if I walk to the finish line, will I keep my second place? And that's kind of what happened for the rest of the race.
It's so weird being a spectator of UTMB specifically because of all the live coverage. They have all the tracking. They have all the algorithms telling you when a person will arrive where. So we're sitting there going like, oh man, like when we saw the footage of Katie and you up on Bovine, I think it's the
it was
Bovine Client,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
the same place that the men's race sort of came apart and changed up. It was like, what is happening? They're running together. You know, Katie's right there with Marianne. And
Yeah,
then
watching it like as a fan of the sport, watching that moment was really exciting because one, we weren't really expecting to see Katie coming up on you at that point, and the announcers were like freaking out. They're like, "We have first place and second place women
Right
in
here."
the same frame that we're watching."
But to know what's sort of going through your head too, of like, it's a mechanical thing, right? It's your left hip, right? So it's like something's going on physically that you're in your head. You're going, I want to be able to push through this. I don't know if I'll be able to right this ship before the end of the race to like really click the K's across. And then you're worried about third place, right? Caitlin Gerben, who's back there, probably about an hour back, I think at that point, 45 minutes, something like that. So it's kind of wild to hear what's going through your head during these moments while the spectacle of the viewers are, you know, like that's there. And I did want to ask a little bit about that because we don't get to chat about this very often because very few races have this level of media coverage. Is it overwhelming for someone at the front of the pack, or specifically at the front of this race, to have cameras everywhere and people running after you with GoPros, whether it's UTMB media specific or just fans of the sport and stuff? Is it overwhelming to have so much attention and like
no alone time?
Yeah, no alone time. That's exactly it. Like, how does that feel?
No, I don't think it's overwhelming. I mean, I love that it's more accessible and that viewers are getting more, that it is fun for spectators. And while I was at the top of Bovine and I saw Katie like catching up to me, I thought to myself, like, this is really good. Like the roles are completely reversed. And I mean, Katie is an amazing person, and I love this sport, and I love to see it. I love to see it grow, and I was so happy to see her succeed at coming back. And what was really good is that Katie passed me, and as she passed me, she said, because she had thrown up at Arnouvaz, and she told me, I ate a sandwich. I heard you say that it saved you at Western States, which it absolutely did. And in my head, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love that what I did at Western States helped Katie beat me, pass me. And I mean, she could have beat me without the sandwich, but it was just a very nice moment, and I was very happy that she was able to overcome her stomach issues and go out to have a really good race. So yeah,
I love this sport so much because of the love between athletes, to like know that we're all fans of the sport. You know, people in the front of the pack are fans of the sport, people in the back of the pack are fans, and to know that she's aware of your sandwich fix at Western States. Like, I saw Marianne do a sandwich at Western States. She got third place. I'm going to do a sandwich here. Like, to know that that's all connected, and you passing each other and being able to give each other words of encouragement. Like, that's kind of a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah. And Katie, when she passed me, I said, like, I think I said something like, good job. You're really crushing it. Like, go ahead. Like, and then she said, like, you're crushing it too. Like, we're both doing really well. And then she made a reference to our time, and I had no idea. Like I said earlier, I'm not focused on stats at all, but she was like, we're doing really good on time. But at that time, I knew that mechanically I wasn't gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So I just told her, like, yeah, keep going at it, because like, this is kind of where I need to drop off. It was funny.
Speaking of like Sandwiches. Saber29 in the chat brings up a great point that we noticed at Courmayeur as well, and that's that you had a perfectly sized pizza. When we saw you grab that at the aid station, I'm like, oh my God, Marianne's grabbing pocket pizza. And it became this sort of like funny thing between Kim and I, like, why do we not do this more often? Like, why is pocket pizza not a thing? But it was like a little individual sized pizza that you like grabbed and I think shoved in your pack or something. So talking about like nutrition, yeah, go ahead and take us on the pocket pizza journey. What is it?
So, well, like I mean, I do. So I said that I can't always do gels, but what I mean by that is like I can't go 24 hours just on gels. Like my stomach at some point, like either it gets sick or it gets hungry, and I'm usually hungry. And I was thinking like before the race, I was like, I'm probably gonna be pretty hungry when I get to Courmayeur. So I had planned on eating something, and a pizza seemed like it would be easy to kind of eat quickly and everything. So when I get to Courmayeur, I start eating the pizza, but I'm so excited that I don't want to take the time to eat the pizza. So I just decide to take the pizza and start running. But then as I'm running, the excitement keeps going, and I can't eat the pizza while I'm running. Like when you leave, when you leave Courmayeur, like you're running uphill, like on the road. So I'm like breathing heavy, and there's someone following me. So I was just like, shoot, I can't eat this pizza. So I fold the pizza and put it in the side of my salon pack. And the funniest thing is that I carried that pizza from Courmayeur all the way to Champellac, but I never ate it. So it's just funny because I took that pizza out for a nice little ride in the mountains.
That is the most like normal thing I feel like I can relate to you on, because I ran 100 and the one thing that stuck in my pack was string cheese, because I was like, at one point I was like, yes, string cheese. And I grab it, put it in my pack. And how long did it last?
50
miles?
Yeah, you had it in your pack for a long time. And so we're like, if you're not eating it, we need
gotta
to
go.
get it out of your
I was
pack.
like, oh, but I might eat it. So I love that you basically, you took a Courmayeur pizza and took it to Champellac, just like taking it on a little journey.
Exactly. It was funny.
Looking back now, as we sort of wrap up the show here, looking back, what are probably some of your favorite memories from this experience? Because you seem like the type of runner who, yeah, you bring joy to the sport, you bring joy to your day, and running UTMB is obviously such a big thing. There is all that media attention, and it's the global stage. What are some of these big things that you're taking away as a memory and as like a really fun part of your journey?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that can be said, but I'll try to enumerate just a few. I mean, seeing the fans at Saint-Gervais, like Saint-Gervais to me was just like mind blowing. Like it's the first town you really run through. There's people everywhere. It's so loud. Like I joke that I accelerated by like a minute a kilometer just running through Saint-Gervais because it's really hard not to run fast within that section, and it's crazy. Like people are just yelling, and it's just that was amazing. And it's nice to see that so many people are enjoying the sport and so many people are encouraging the sport as if it's like the biggest sport ever, and
Yeah.
that's not something that we're necessarily used to in different trail races. So that was definitely memorable. And then out on the course, like for me, it has to be everyone that had a specific role in making it, in bringing me to the finish line. And because UTMB is a huge event, there are so many people out there that were able to do so, even if they weren't supposed to do it in a certain way. There's just so many people out there that want to follow along and that they want to help out, and so they figure out a way to help you, and they tell you something at a certain point that brings you to the next aid station and brings you to the next aid station. And that goes also for the people in the race. Like there are so many, I think it's wonderful that trail running has men and women start at the same time, because there's so many more opportunities for us to chit chat with. Like if it was only a women's sport, for example, it would like I wouldn't be chatting with as many people because there would be just the women. Whereas now I'm passing men and they're like, hey, and like everyone is like, are you the first female? And I'm like, no. Like that's the question I get asked, or they say like, are you trying to catch the first female? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but I'm moving along. So, but it's just nice. Like it's crazy how much people care, and it's crazy how enthusiastic people are, and that's really what I appreciated with UTMB is that there's so much enthusiasm, and it's hard not to put your full heart into it because there is just so much excitement.
Well, we very much appreciate you, Marianne, because you do bring this joy. And I think, just watching someone run one of the toughest races out there with a smile on their face is such a great experience as a viewer and as a fan of the sport to know, like, yeah, she's probably hurting and she's going through some tough shit right now, but she's got the smile on her face. And that's like a lesson that I can take, is when things are the worst, it doesn't mean that they're bad, right? Like, you can still be having some fun and some joy. We're so stoked for you. Second place on pretty much the world's biggest stage. Third place also on the world's biggest stage at Western States. You are an incredible athlete, and round of applause for Marianne Hogan.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I also, as we wrap up the show here, we are going to move into the after show with Marianne. So GR crew members, get ready. We'll be able to ask all those questions that didn't get asked during the main show here. But Marianne, I want to give you the opportunity to sort of talk about stuff that you have going on, or where people can follow you on social media to follow your adventures further as you begin to recover from UTMB. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so people can definitely find me on Instagram. My handle is actually Marianne Hogan _. And then on Strava, I put most of my runs on Strava. I don't think that there's anything in my training to hide necessarily. Plus, I do a lot of more fun adventures than specific training. So go ahead and check that out. And I'm a little less on Facebook, but I am as well. So you can find me there as well.
Fantastic. Our guest today, Marianne Hogan, second place at UTMB, first Canadian. We're so stoked for her. So awesome to have her on the show. And we appreciate her time too, because we know that there's a major time difference right now before she comes back to her home. But it was such a great show. We're going to move into our after show with Marianne for a quick 5 or 10 minute after show with all of the additional questions that we didn't get asked during the main show there. But of course, we like to wrap up our Ginger Runner Lives with a segment we call our GR Crew Member of the Week, where we get to recognize members of the community who go above and beyond. And I feel like I know who this week's GR Crew members are.
I feel like you say that every week.
I do, but I'm going to guess. Go ahead.
I'm going to surprise you one of these weeks.
All right.
This week's GR Crew members of the week are Melissa and Ariel. Melissa and Ariel both ticked off their first 100-mile race this past weekend at the Oregon Cascades 100. So congratulations to both of you.
Congratulations. Ticking off your first 100 is a big milestone. We know it takes all you got and all your family's got and everything. So congratulations. And again, a huge congratulations to our guest tonight, Marianne Hogan. So awesome having her on the show as well. Can't wait to see what she gets up to. That's going to wrap up Ginger Runner Live episode number 412. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into tonight's episode. This
morning's episode.
Wow. Maybe I'm still awake from yesterday. This morning's episode. We're going to move right into the after show. You can join us at the after show by heading over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. All tiers get access to our after shows with our guests, both past and future. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye.
Ginger Run.